David Savage, a.k.a. Diz, and this is The Force Always.
Welcome to the Star Wars news. Let's get right into it. I'm calling this particular episode Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker Christmas Special. It's been about a week since we've had the old Episode 9, and I can say old now because it's now a week old. But the Star Wars news and views and reviews and interviews will be pretty much about this. But before we get on to that, let's just give you a quick review of last week's Mandalorian episode, which was called The Reckoning. That was probably an 8 out of 10. It was definitely enjoyable, definitely had thriller aspects to it. Sort of left us wondering towards the end. Shot well, it was fun, exciting. I'm up with it. It's great. It's probably equal best to the Chapter 2, which is not episode. This is not Episode 7. It was Chapter 7. Chapter 2, which is the one where we got to see Yoda, the baby Yoda, Rocky's Force powers. And I think this last episode, Chapter 7, The Reckoning, was definitely good. 8 out of 10. But anyway, that's just The Mandalorian. The final episode should be airing sometime Christmas or Boxing Day, wherever you are in the world. That would be in the next 24 to 48 hours. Let's get on to the real main news, which is about Star Wars Episode 9. Look, the fallout has begun on this film. Let's start off with that. I'm finding that that Star Wars fans, the majority of ones I'm coming across, are not liking it. The majority of the Star Wars fans are not liking it. There is some out there that do like it. That includes myself and my friend, as you saw last week, Emmanuel. I wouldn't say he's a hardcore Star Wars fan, but he does enjoy it immensely. But I think the fallout has begun, and I'm a bit fearful for Star Wars' future. I think Disney will be really taking this into account, the overall picture, and especially their core-based fans, which they're really not treated very well. I am for Disney and what they've done. I think they've done a good job. I think if there's anything wrong, they've just missed certain opportunities from The Force Awakens into The Last Jedi and into The Rise of Skywalker. I still give The Rise of Skywalker, as I did last week, 8 out of 10. I've actually seen it 5 times. I think it's consistent. It definitely is trying to chase its tail and trying to fill in story points, which keeps the pacing way up, which is good. I'm really baffled from the hatred and dislike with this film. I think it's a film that is worthy, but everyone has their own opinion. But I'm fearful for its future. This 2022, 2024, 2026 release. I don't know what's going to come our way with that. Apparently something's going to be set in January. Whether that comes to light, I'm unsure, but I'll keep you up to date with that. But yeah, I must admit, I'm a bit disheartened with the whole, the Star Wars community. They're just really not coming together, but at the same time, everyone has their own opinion of things. But there is a lot of, dislike and hatred, which is not making the whole Star Wars exciting. I think it's lost its excitement. If anything, if you ask me what Disney has given and what Star Wars has given in the last 3 episodes, that is Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker, in a strange way putting it, as much as people would hate on Disney and whatever it is, I think it's actually given a bit more of a humanized element. Like, the bad guy, Kylo Ren, was, pretty unmasked from the start. And he didn't really need the mask. He was not using it to hold himself together or anything like this. We got to know Ben and Kylo Ren, the actual, characters, quite well on screen. Rey, obviously, unmasked, and she's, fully equipped. Even Finn and even Poe, all of them. It was very humanized, I thought, which I am all for. I think that's the last three films have given us a bit more of a human sort of keeping it real sort of feel, with that sort of used future that George Lucas sort of once said that he sort of wanted the world to look like and feel like. I don't know why. Still, I'm really baffled in how this film is getting just horrible reviews. I do think, and I've said this before, I'm a part of the world of YouTube. I think YouTube have really been stepped up into possible research by Disney to see, what people want, what people don't want. I'm sure of it. I can't confirm it. Because I remember, at Force Awakens time, the love and the callback to the type of film it was is what people wanted, and YouTube was sort of pretty much underway at that point, and I'm sure they would have read into that, and not even read into that at that point. But then it got into The Last Jedi, where I remember so vividly the YouTubers were really adamant in getting something original. They got it, and then they didn't like it. Not all of them, but parts of it. And I think the originality sort of made that film, quite good. Again, I've got to say that, some choices I would have said maybe not, but it still was original. And it was still a worthy film. It was a really good transitional film from one side of the galaxy to the next, which gave it a great sort of second part sort of feel to it. It didn't need to be as epic as what we all wanted it to be, because I remember walking to that film at the Chinese theatre and being so amped to see this film. Like, I was just like ready to run a marathon. It was like, bam. And I did like it, and but again, there were story elements I think that could have been worked on. But let's get into The Rise of Skywalker. I think The Rise of Skywalker has really given us the film that we wanted, with some different type of surprises. Like, sort of like, again, this is going to be in spoiler kingdom. So if you don't want any spoilers, just maybe put off now. Send me a message if you like. But anyway, I thought the inclusion of Harrison Ford coming back as Han Solo was quite a shock. I thought the way they dealt with Princess Leia or General Leia dying, I thought that was a bit of a shock, but it was still well done. I thought it was good. Even at the very end of the film, you see this kiss by two females, and I thought it was sort of showing that Star Wars embraces all types of people, and I think that's what Star Wars is about, and I thought that was great. But I can see that being, taken out of context in whatever way. A lot of blame of this particular film is because number 8 sort of left so many things unanswered and not explored. And I sort of agree, but at the same time, as JJ has said before, and I'm sure George Lucas would say, every film is its own film. You've just got to take it for what it is. I accept The Rise of Skywalker. I still give it 8 out of 10. It's definitely enjoyable. It's definitely not enjoyable getting all this Star Wars fans not liking it. I've got good friends via Instagram and Twitter that I've got to know from the Star Wars celebrations that have been passed, like from Orlando and Chicago. They're not liking it that much. It took them a bit of a jolt. They were really excited for it, but they didn't really, liken to it more. I'm finding the people, if you're going to generalize here, I'm finding the people who don't like Last Jedi would like The Rise of Skywalker. The people who do like Last Jedi won't like the Rise of Skywalker. Excuse me. That's the only sort of pickup I'm feeling at the moment. I'm wishing that this is not going to explode to an uncontrollable extent like the last one, which is episode 8, The Last Jedi. I think it's just been blown out of proportion. But yeah, I'm feeling a bit sort of down on the whole thing, but I'm still excited. I'll probably see it a couple more times The Rise of Skywalker if I can. You know, it was a good film. I do sort of, the only lore, Star Wars lore that I question is that, you know, the whole Return of the Jedi where, you know, the Chosen One was sort of pretty much written at that point, has been rewritten with Rey. Nothing against Rey, nothing against being female, nothing like that at all. I just think the whole rewriting of it again just sort of like says it's a never-ending story that loses its reality in a strange way, being fantasy film, but the reality within this fantasy, if you can understand, is being lost. It also did that with Darth Maul. I thought that was a bit of a unfortunate, you know, resurrection, you know, but in another way, it was still a very good storyline. My worst thing of Star Wars, personally, is how Star Wars characters get named in the actual movies. I think the naming of Darth Vader, I always had a problem with. I thought it's a great name, but simply just going, you are going to be Darth Vader, I just thought, come on. It had to have some sort of more meaning to that than just that moment. I thought the naming of Han Solo in Solo was a bit random as well. And I think in this one, the Rise of Skywalker is a bit random. I sort of get it that she's, you know, about taking on the good rather than the bad, and she is being adopted in a way, which is nothing wrong with that. But it's not... She is a Palpatine, not a Skywalker. The only thing I can sort of pinpoint on that is that it's more, you know, sellable to sell it as Skywalker than Palpatine, which I understand. And it's more sellable in the form that she's about good than bad. You know, Skywalker being good, Palpatine being bad. I think this film has got a great journey, great coming together, great looking scenes, action is fantastic. The emotion didn't overwhelm me, but it was still good. It actually flows like a normal Star Wars film where the emotion doesn't overflow too much, even though I would like it to be a bit too much sometimes, but it just would take it away from being an actual Star Wars film. But yeah, so where do we go now? I don't know. Disney, I think, will be at a bit of a loss. And Lucasfilm, a bit of a loss. What to do next? I'll be surprised with what comes out in 2022, 2024, 2026. I'll be surprised if they cancel that. But going back to the start, when this was acquired by Disney for $4 billion... I don't think you could sell the actual Lucasfilm now for that amount. I personally think it would be less, even though this film's been made, has made lots of money and has added to the investment of Star Wars. I just don't think there's any particular buyer out there that would buy this. The only people that would buy the film, and I think they'd reboot it, is the hardcore Star Wars fans with certain YouTube channels. Or, because there's no one else. I mean, of course there would be other businesses, but, you know, a business that would take care of it. I think Disney have attempted to take care. I think they do take care. I'm not a Disney hater. I think they're great, but they just, they have led the path of not really getting inside the story detailed enough. Like what you can and cannot do within Star Wars. It's good to sort of have free reign on something, but it's also, you've got to have a certain way with the story, I think. So it's been an interesting week this last week. I've seen it 5 times. I still think it's consistent. I think it's great. I think there's a thread there. I think there's, you know, probably the most confusing part is the end part where, you know, she was pronounced to be a Skywalker when she's a Palpatine. But I do like that. I love the name. I think The Rise of Skywalker is a great name. It's, you know, it's up there with The Force Awakens, Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back. You know, it's solid names. I think the story's worthy. I'm very baffled by the Star Wars community, why you would take it so bad, this film. But everyone has their own opinion, I understand that. But pretty much for me, myself, I'm going to keep rocking Star Wars on a weekly basis. Star Wars news, views, reviews, interviews. Also depends on the YouTube, if they still allow me to keep doing this from January 1, as either YouTube channels will be cancelled or just they'll stay. I'm unsure about that whole sort of transition at the moment. I've done what I can. But you know, there is people out there I greatly admire as fans, and there's you know, very good Twitter fans. One name being Kate, and one name being Nigel. I won't get into the exact Twitter name for the privacy reason, but they, especially Nigel, he's just an amazing supporter. Very, very good intentions, you know, sort of very, you know, just I appreciate his, or if you're watching, your continued support from this other side of the world. I know you're in a different part of the world, I won't name where, but that long distance connection I'm absolutely grateful for. And with Kate, she was a bit of a newcomer recently to my support of this channel. But yeah, but you know, whether I had no one, I'd still keep rocking. But with these guys, they really have me a good reason to keep rocking. And that really comes to this part of the show. I will be back next week again. And after that, hope that will be the new year. I'm wishing that YouTube will have me keep rocking, as I say. But, you know, subscribe to the channel, The Force Always, only on YouTube. You know, check my Twitter, check my Instagram, send me a YouTube channel or message, whatever you like. Yeah, and I just thought I'd add one more thing. I do this channel, you know, outside of my work hours, real work hours, you know, like, you know, that pays the bills. And I have limited amount of time doing this, so I sort of tend to have a very efficient way of putting this together. I do think I get it done well. I'd like more time, but I just, you know, I've got to use with what I've got. Give you an idea, I do roughly about 80 hours per week. That's in my paying jobs. And I still love Star Wars. So sometimes you may hear the volume a bit low. Sometimes you maybe see a green screen, or I do the best to come out with the best possible content I can. And that's it. So love it or hate it, as I say, until next week, keep rocking.